Hello, welcome to my channel and to another episode of Malezi Friday. My name is Jennifer Munanie and I'm the founder of Lactation. In today's episode, I want us to talk about how breast milk production works, especially the phases of breast milk production. You may wonder why you need to know this as a parent. Knowing how breast milk production works, especially the different phases of breast milk production, will help you understand how best to work with your body to establish, maintain, regulate, and increase your breast milk supply depending on the phase of breast milk production that you are at. Now, breast milk production happens in 4 phases. There is mammogenesis, which is the growth and development of breasts. There is lactogenesis, which is the initiation of breast milk secretion. There is galactopoiesis, which is the maintenance of lactation. And finally, involution, which is the regression after lactation. We'll look at each of these phases, what happens in each phase, and how best you can work with your body at each of the phases. Let's start with mammogenesis, which, like I've mentioned, is the growth and development of the breasts in preparation for breast milk production. Breast growth and development is a very important part of female reproduction, and it occurs in stages throughout a woman's life, beginning from even before she's born, all through and beyond breastfeeding and into her menopause. Breast development starts while a baby is in their mother's womb as an embryo. It starts with thickening of the chest and formation of the milk line, which extends from under the armpits all the way to the groin area on both sides. At some point during gestation, the milk line will disappear, but it may persist in some cases, leading to supernumerary breast tissue, either extra nipples, which is called polythelia, or extra breast, which is called polymastia. This development that occurs during the embryonic stage is under the control of hormones and will continue throughout gestation, such that by the time the baby is born, they have a fatty tissue, fibrous tissue, nipple areola, and a single milk duct that is immature. Once the baby is born, there's no further breast development that will occur until puberty. During puberty, there are hormonal changes that occur, especially an increase in estrogen that leads to several breast changes. Fatty tissue deposition increases, so the breast increase in size. Lobes and lobules are formed. Milk ducts branch out and extend. The areola and nipple darken, and so many other breast changes. With each menstrual cycle, the breasts develop further in preparation for pregnancy. If a pregnancy doesn't occur, they return to their normal size. Until pregnancy, breast development is under the hormonal control of the menstrual cycle, so they do not come into full maturation until then. When a woman gets pregnant, the breasts mature throughout the pregnancy, and several breast changes that I talked about in my previous video occur throughout the pregnancy. Even more breast growth and development occurs during breastfeeding. Any interruption in the entire mammogenesis process where a structure, especially the glandular tissue, do not form or mature to the required level can affect lactation or breastfeeding in one way or another. For instance, if there is low glandular tissue formation, there is likely to be low breast milk production. Now, let's look at the actual breast milk production, which happens in several stages, starting with lactogenesis. Lactogenesis is divided into 2 phases, which is secretory differentiation or lactogenesis 1 and secretory activation or lactogenesis 2. In lactogenesis 1 or secretory differentiation, all these structures that were formed during mammogenesis or breast growth and development mature to the point of producing breast milk. This starts during the second trimester of pregnancy and continues all through to 2 to 3 days after your baby is born. Lactogenesis 1 is fully controlled by hormones, especially progesterone, estrogen, and prolactin. Progesterone and estrogen promote further differentiation of the breasts, while prolactin is involved in breast milk production, such that by the end of your second trimester, the alveoli cells within a lobule are fully capable of producing breast milk, which is usually in colostrum phase at this stage. Because of high levels of progesterone and estrogen, prolactin levels are low, so the colostrum that you may produce during pregnancy, which some moms may notice, is usually in very small amounts. Once you birth your baby and the placenta, progesterone and estrogen levels suddenly decrease, allowing prolactin levels to increase. But it may take time for your body to notice these changes, so it continues producing small amounts of colostrum. It's important to keep latching your baby even if you're seeing very small amounts of the clear or thick yellow substance, which is colostrum. It's important to note that the sudden decrease in progesterone and estrogen levels once you birth your baby and the placenta also decrease dopamine levels and increase cortisol levels, which can lead to stress, delayed bonding with the baby, and irregular moods. Lactogenesis 1 begins during your pregnancy, particularly in the second trimester, and continues from the time you give birth to your baby to 2 to 3 days postpartum. It's fully controlled by hormones, so whether you breastfeed your baby in the first few days or not, breast milk, which is usually in colostrum phase at this stage, will still be produced. From your day 3 to 4 postpartum, you enter a different phase of breast milk production called lactogenesis 2 or secretory activation. With this stage, there is an increase in prolactin levels, which leads to you producing more breast milk. This is why most moms say that their breast milk came in or comes in during day 3 to 4 postpartum, since they are seeing more breast milk being produced compared to the few drops that they were producing in the first few days. The milk coming in terminology is not accurate because you are producing breast milk even in the first few days, just that it was in colostrum phase. So you do not have to wait until day 3 or 4 to start breastfeeding. You can latch your baby and breastfeed as frequently as possible even in these first few days when your breast milk is in colostrum phase and you're not seeing much of it. This phase lasts about a week from day 3 to 4, and there is dramatic increase in breast milk. This is when most moms experience engorgement, so it's important that you keep latching your baby and breastfeeding them as frequently as possible. Breast milk during this phase also changes to transitional milk. Transitional milk is not concentrated yellow like colostrum, but it's also not white like mature milk. The most important thing for you to note during lactogenesis 2, which is from day 3 to 4 postpartum to day 9 to 10 postpartum, is the dramatic increase in your breast milk supply, which can cause engorgement. So latch and breastfeed your baby as frequently as possible to prevent all this. This second phase of lactogenesis can be delayed by several things, such as you delaying the first breastfeed, retained placental fragments, medical conditions such as diabetes and hypertension, and stress such as a stressful vaginal delivery. How to work with your body during this phase is to breastfeed your baby as frequently as possible because breast milk is still being made whether you breastfeed them or not. A lack of latching or a lack of breast milk removal can lead to engorgement, which, if unresolved, can cause mastitis. What a lack of latching or breast milk removal can lead to is delaying the next phase of breast milk production. The next and third phase of breast milk production is called galactopoiesis, which is the maintenance of lactation. It starts from day 10 postpartum and lasts as long as you continue breastfeeding until weaning and involution of the breast. During galactopoiesis, unique things happen. First, breast milk changes from transitional milk to mature milk. Second, breast milk production changes from hormonal control to autocrine or local control. Remember, during lactogenesis 1 and lactogenesis 2, breast milk production is fully under the control of hormones. So from your pregnancy through birth and until 10 days postpartum, whether you breastfeed or not, breast milk will still be produced. But something happens during galactopoiesis. Your hormones partially pass the baton to you and your baby. This makes galactopoiesis controlled by both hormones and the local system, that is you and your baby. You will continue producing breast milk as long as there is stimulation and breast milk removal. This is when the supply and demand process of breast milk production starts. The more you breastfeed, the more breast milk you make. The less you breastfeed, the less breast milk you make. To maintain or increase your breast milk production from 10 days postpartum onwards, you need to increase your demand by either directly nursing your baby at the breast, hand expressing, or by pumping. Something important to note during this phase is that your breast milk supply will regulate or decrease. This is because the control has shifted from hormonal control, where you are getting breast milk whether you breastfeed or not, to local control, where you are getting only what you demand, which your body interprets as what your baby needs. You may notice your breast softening, not feeling as full as before, or not leaking like before, but this is normal. It's your body giving you exactly what your baby needs, which is exactly what you demand. To increase your breast milk supply, once this regulation has occurred, you need to demand more by either nursing more, pumping more, or hand expressing more. That is more breast milk removal. The main things to note about this phase is the change of breast milk from transitional milk to mature milk, and the change of control from hormonal control to hormonal and local system, where you and your baby are running the show, which can lead to breast milk regulation. How to work with your body during this phase is to create more demand through breastfeeding, hand expressing, or pumping so that you can get more supply. The last phase of breast milk production is involution, which is the process in which the breast tissue returns to its pre-pregnancy state after lactation or breastfeeding has stopped. It begins when you wean your baby off breastfeeding and can take several months or years to complete. Remember, breast milk production is a supply and demand process. With weaning, there is decreased demand, so the supply will decrease. With reducing supply, the milk-making cells, that is the alveoli, undergo programmed cell death, which is controlled by hormones. They are broken down and reabsorbed into the bloodstream. Over time, the breast tissues return to their pre-pregnancy state, where there are a fewer number of milk-making cells. The breast also return to being influenced by the hormonal changes of the menstrual cycle. The glandular tissue loses its differentiation, and as it decreases, it's slowly replaced by the fibrous tissue and fatty tissue that initially made up most volume of the breast. The redeposition of fatty tissue can take up to 2 to 3 years. There's usually a myth that breastfeeding causes the breast to sag, but it's not exactly breastfeeding that causes the breast to sag. You see, in preparation for breastfeeding, the fibrous tissue and the fatty tissue are slowly replaced by the glandular tissue, which is the milk-making tissue. After you've weaned your baby, the glandular tissue loses its differentiation, and it takes several years for the fatty tissue to be redeposited. During this period, when the fatty tissue is slowly being redeposited and the fibrous tissue is regaining its elasticity, the breast may appear to sag. Once this process is complete, they will be back to their pre-pregnancy state. That was a lot, but in case you do not understand anything else, I need you to understand lactogenesis 1 and 2 and galactopoiesis. Lactogenesis 1 is the process that starts during your pregnancy in the second trimester and continues to 2 to 3 days postpartum. In as much as you are producing small amounts of colostrum, especially after birth, it's important that you latch your baby and breastfeed them as frequently as possible. You do not have to wait for your breast milk to come in. Lactogenesis 2 is the process that starts day 3 to 4 postpartum and goes on to day 9 to 10 postpartum. It's marked by a dramatic increase in your breast milk supply and has a risk of engorgement. So it's important that you latch your baby and breastfeed them as frequently as possible or have frequent breast milk removal. Galactopoiesis is the process that starts on day 10 postpartum and goes on as long as you continue breastfeeding your baby until you wean them. This is when the supply and demand process of breast milk production starts. To maintain and increase your breast milk supply, you need to create demand by directly nursing your baby, hand expressing, or pumping. When you know all this, you can advocate for yourself, especially in the first few days when moms are offered breast milk substitutes because they are made to believe that their breast milk has not come in. Remember, the breast milk that you're producing through these different stages of breast milk production, that is the colostrum, transitional milk, and mature milk, all serve a purpose for your baby. I hope you found this video useful. In case of any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond to them. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next episode of Malezi Friday next week.